You know that feeling, right? We've all faced those moments where we're just absolutely agonizing over a tough decision. I mean, should I take that new job? And this relationship? Pick up and move across the country? It can be literally paralyzing. But what if we could borrow the absolute best mental models from psychology to make those high-stakes moments just a little bit easier? Welcome to today's Explainer. We have really dug into some of the most robust psychological research out there to build what is essentially the ultimate decision-making toolkit. Let's see how these frameworks can completely shift the way we approach our most complex choices. Okay, let's dive into this. We've got a 5-step masterclass lined up for you today. First, the choice paralysis problem. Second, overcoming your brain's biases. Third, thinking across time. Fourth, preparing for the worst. And finally, minimizing your future regret. We're going to take you from total decision paralysis to profound clarity. Starting off with Section 1, the choice paralysis problem, or why more is actually less, because we really need to acknowledge the unique psychological pain of making modern choices. Now, you'd naturally think that having infinite options, whether it's staring at 50 types of salad dressing at the supermarket or navigating endless career paths, would be completely liberating. But psychologist Barry Schwartz calls this the paradox of choice. His research actually found that an overabundance of choices debilitates us. It dramatically increases our anxiety and, ironically, robs us of satisfaction because the heavy burden of making the absolute perfect choice is suddenly resting entirely on our shoulders. So, how do we even begin to make choices when we're already that overwhelmed? Well, we pivot to our internal obstacles in Section 2, overcoming your brain's biases. Let's meet the 4 villains. According to the research of Chip and Dan Heath, our own brains are constantly working against us when we're trying to decide. There are basically 4 common biases, or villains, that lead us astray. First up is narrow framing. That's when we artificially limit our options and miss out on much better choices. Second is confirmation bias. We only gather info that supports what we secretly already want to do. Third is short-term emotion, letting immediate visceral feelings dictate our long-term paths. And fourth, overconfidence. We think we know exactly how the future will play out, and, spoiler alert, we rarely do. To manually override this faulty auto-spotlight our brains use, we can deploy the WRAP framework. WRAP stands for Widen Your Options, Reality Test Your Assumptions, Attain Distance, and Prepare to be Wrong. Instead of letting your brain narrow in on those visceral emotions, this framework forces you to sort of sweep a light over a much broader landscape. And this brilliantly illustrates how each step of the WRAP process acts as a direct counterattack to a specific villain. You defeat narrow framing by consciously widening your options. You beat confirmation bias by reality testing with hard data. You overcome short-term emotion by attaining distance. And you neutralize overconfidence by simply preparing to be wrong. It's just an incredibly practical defense system against our own absurd wiring. All right, now that we've cleared our immediate mental hurdles, let's step into Section 3. Thinking across time. We're going to project ourselves into the future to gain some real perspective. The absolute best way to examine the long-term consequences of a choice is through what investor Howard Marks calls second-order thinking. It's this deliberate mental model that constantly asks one simple question: and then what? First-order thinking is fast, it's easy. It looks like, hey, I'm hungry, let's eat a chocolate bar. But second-order thinking, that is deliberate. It forces you to ask, and then what? And carefully consider the long-term health consequences of eating that chocolate every single day. Pushing past that first, easy step is how smart people consistently outperform the masses. To put this into practice, business journalist Susie Welch created the 10-10-10 technique. So I want you to bring a tough decision to your mind right now. Got it? Okay, now evaluate it across these 3 distinct time horizons. What are the consequences of this choice in 10 minutes? What about in 10 months? And finally, what about in 10 years? This kind of mental time travel forces you to align your choices with your actual values, totally stripping away the blinding noise of immediate gratification. Moving right along to Section 4, preparing for the worst. We visualize the future, but now we need to actively bulletproof our choices against absolute failure. Enter the highly procedural pre-mortem, which is a technique developed by Gary Klein. Instead of waiting for a project or a decision to fail and then doing a post-mortem, you use prospective hindsight. Basically, you assume the decision has already completely failed, and you generate plausible reasons why. Research actually shows that mentally transporting yourself to a failed future like this increases your ability to accurately forecast risks by a staggering 30%. So you assume failure, list the reasons, read them aloud, and mitigate those risks before you even pull the trigger. But we really have to balance this rigorous planning with ancient Stoic philosophy. The Stoics remind us to focus only on what we can actually control, and to fiercely accept that the final outcome is not always one of them. You can make the best possible decision using all of these tools, and things might still go completely sideways. You gotta detach from the outcome and take responsibility only for your actions, your reasoning, and your core values. And that elevates the stakes, bringing us to our climax. Section 5, minimizing your future regret. We're shifting from tactical frameworks to the ultimate existential filter for your life choices. So, before starting Amazon, Jeff Bezos had a secure, highly paid job on Wall Street. To find the courage to make that terrifying leap into the total unknown, he used what he called the regret minimization framework. He said, "I wanted to project myself forward to age 80. I want to have minimized the number of regrets I have." He knew that when he was 80, he wouldn't regret trying and failing at this wild new internet thing. But he knew for a fact he would be haunted every single day by never having tried it all. Looking through that lens, it made the decision incredibly easy. Now, if you want to know exactly what to avoid when minimizing regret, we can look at the work of Bronnie Ware. She spent years working in palliative care and actually documented the top 5 regrets of the dying. They are not living true to myself, working too hard, not expressing my feelings, losing touch with friends, and not letting myself be happier. Notice what's noticeably absent from this list. No one on their deathbed regrets failing at a bold new venture. What they deeply regret are the authentic lives they didn't let themselves live. So the crucial point here is this massive contrast in mindsets. A reactive mindset believes that life just happens to us. But an ownership mindset, that realizes life happens because of our decisions. By utilizing the tools we've explored today, you purposefully align your daily choices with your deepest values to ensure you avoid those heartbreaking end-of-life regrets. Well, we have covered a tremendous amount of ground today, from battling the villains in our brains to traveling through time with the 10-10-10 technique. But I really want to leave you with this final, ultimate question. When you are 80 years old looking back, will you regret the choice you are agonizing over today? Take these frameworks, step into the arena, and make a choice you're going to be deeply proud of. Thanks so much for exploring this topic with me, and I will see you in the next explainer.